I've never been to Burning Man. Okay, full disclosure, never been to Burning Man. I have tons of friends that have gone. I don't have any friends, like close friends, that went. But joining us on the Nikki Maduro show is Jimmy Kraft. Jimmy, thank you so much. You are the son of Bill, who reached out as a watcher of our show, and he's like, my son is out there. Well, he just got home. And you have to have him on the show because I was looking for somebody. And so thank you, Jimmy. I'm sure you're exhausted, but thanks for coming on the show.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Okay, so I want to just, I've been fascinated by it. Now, of course, I'm fascinated in the comfort of my own home. I am not stuck in, I don't know, feet of mud up to my knees or whatever. You did send me some pictures. I'm going to show a couple of the pictures, Jimmy, that you sent me, just to kind of get an idea of, the mud, the tracks. People, if you've been watching the news, you've seen something like this. But it was, this actually doesn't look too bad.
It doesn't. No, it had gotten a little better by then.
Yeah.
The drying out phase.
So Jimmy, tell me, how was it? Was this your first year at Burning Man? Are you an experienced burner? What's your kind of background with Burning Man?
This is my 5th burn, so I've been there a few times, and I've seen extremes of many varieties. High heat, crazy winds, like whiteout dust storms. This is the first time that we ever experienced rain this way. And we've seen rain before, but never like this.
Okay, so before Burning Man started, there was a bit of a delay because of the storms. They were like, wait a couple days before coming out. And so the initial build of the city was delayed. Did that give you a little bit of pause? Like you're like, maybe it's going to be a tough year this year?
Honestly, no. I thought it was going to be a one and done. Like I can't speak for the weather ever anywhere, but especially somewhere as dynamic and like crazy twisty turny as the middle of the desert. I was just grateful that the first storm had passed, and I thought maybe it had gotten it out of its system.
And no, and
It
so
did not,
obviously,
no.
so kind of talk about now. What day did you arrive?
I arrived on Monday.
Oh, so you were there?
On Sunday. Sunday.
Which is normally when people arrive, correct?
Yeah, there's a big ingress that day.
And
so
so
yeah,
it rained.
Everything was dry already. Everything was built. Everything seemed to be going according to plan.
Okay, and so then it starts raining. Was there ever a thought in your mind like, I'm not going to make it? So you didn't stay for the actual burning of the man, correct?
No, I was able to get out on a shuttle relatively according to schedule, fortunately, because they put together this crazy disaster contingency plan and got a lot of people out. So they burned the man last night, I believe, but I was already out in Reno.
So talk a little bit about, the experience this year. I have heard, and I was saying this before I brought you on, so many people, even though they were stuck out there or maybe still in traffic, I guess, are saying this was one of the best burns. Do you think, one, that they're saying that because it gets you through a tough time? Or two, was there something unique about the weather and the whole situation that made it more memorable?
I mean, I think there's truth to all of that. Memorable is definitely a word for it. My experience at the burn before the rain was pretty much par for the course, like time of my life, riding around, exploring, connecting. Once the rain started, it took me a little while to adjust and find the joy that I could find. But I did. And we talk about this all the time in my camp about how things change when your perspective changes, and when you are not able to ride your bike around, even on like a nice day. Say your bike catches a flat, you don't go fix it. You are stuck walking around on foot, and so the pace that you absorb your surroundings with changes. You see things on a smaller scale. You get to meet your neighbors, and if you're able to make the most of that and not think about like, I'm not on my bike anymore, I want to go like do everything far away, then you get to see things that you wouldn't have seen. This was an extreme form of that.
Mm.
where you not only were relegated to foot travel, but you couldn't get very far and you couldn't get really anywhere fast. So I think a lot of people became a lot closer with their campmates. Um, and that definitely happened with me once I was able to kind of get over the darkness, which took me a bit. But I ended up almost grateful for it because
Mm.
obviously it's easy for me to say that now on the other side. Um, but the way I got to connect with my campmates, who I didn't know very well going in, uh, was a gift in a way. And I wouldn't choose to go through that, but I was able to walk away with something really beautiful. And I had some amazing moments during the storm, towards the end of the storm and after the storm. So we were really able to like recycle our situation into something awesome.
Um, a lot of people, and again, full disclosure, I've never been to Burning Man. But in recent years, it seems that there's this narrative that people that have gone a lot have said that it's changed. It's become, too corporate, too expensive. It only brings certain types of people out. Um, do you feel that way? I mean, is this something that you think has changed? All things evolve, of course. Everything evolves. Do you think that it's evolving in a good way? And do you think that it's going to fundamentally change after an experience that all these burners went through?
Well, after this year, it might have to change in some ways. I don't know what the state of the playa is going to be when we leave, because that place was torn up, like the ground cover itself. Usually after rain, it'll dry out and flatten out, but just the contour of the ground is just super whack right now.
Mm.
And the situation with people possibly like deserting their camps and leaving stuff there, that's kind of, people screw up every year and they end up leaving. We call it MOOP. It stands for matter out of place.
Mm.
They end up leaving things, but usually the community does a good job of making sure that all gets picked up or taken out. But this year, with people just like up and leaving, and the sort of disaster component causing people to like lose their minds and not think in according to like the principles, I'm concerned that at large we may end up leaving it in a state that compromises the privilege that we have to like have that place granted to us by the Bureau of Land Management. I can't speak to that for sure.
Yeah, but I was hearing that too, that the Bureau of Land Management is probably going to be pretty pissed
They're
because
gonna
there's going to be so much stuff left over.
Yeah. And I don't know what it takes for the ground itself to return to a usable state. Um, as far as the changing of Burning Man over the years, I can't speak to it too heavily. I've only been coming since 2017, and I I don't have a bird's eye view. I have my own experience, and my own experience has roughly been the same every time. Or I just go out and I meet a bunch of people, and they're all super different from each other. Some of them come really well equipped and really like ready to connect with people. Some are there just to party and to like take pictures for their social media.
Mm.
Um, and some people have been going there for decades and decades. And some of those people who are long timers still are absolutely in love with it and are kind of more immune to the what the change looks like. Some are like curmudgeonly and will still go. Some are curmudgeonly and won't go anymore because they don't like the direction it's going. Um, there definitely is like a lot of money and a lot of privilege out there, like that has to be recognized. Um,
Yeah, when you have Chris Rock and Cindy Crawford and her daughter and Diplo and all them, not that they can't go, you know what I
yeah,
mean? But I doubt that they're not going in the lap of luxury or whatever luxury is at Burning
yeah.
Man.
But people go in all different ways. Like I'm an
Yeah.
I'm an independent jazz musician. Like I am not on Chris Rock's tier, and I still go every year. Like I make it work. Like I budget for it.
How much is it to
And
go?
it depends on a lot of factors. The base ticket price is around $400.
Okay. And then,
Um,
but like if you pay more, what do you get if you pay more
okay,
money?
so it depends on your camp. So there's like There are big flashy camps with hundreds of people who like provide meals every day, showers, uh, bathrooms, whatever. Um, and those camps will often have like higher dues, uh, like you pay to be a part of the camp,
Okay. Okay.
because that
Just
goes.
once, or do you play all year, like, so that you have a spot?
You pay like once per year, I believe.
Okay.
Um, and so that all goes to paying for the infrastructure that you get to benefit from while you're there. It's an investment in
Comfort.
in comfort. Yeah. Um, uh, my camp is much smaller, much more modest. Um, and I just go in a tent.
Wow.
We were lucky in the porta potties were really close, so you know we at least had proximity to some necessary amenities until the rain, because that screwed up the porta potty situation. The the pump truck came around finally and was receiving like raucous applause from everyone it passed. We we ran out and we gave him a big bottle of vodka.
Oh, wow.
Hopefully he waited until after to get this, but I wouldn't be surprised. He was going through some shit, very literally.
Literally.
Um,
Exactly.
um, so yeah. So, and then of course you have to factor in air travel or car travel, car passes. I took the Burner Express bus, so that's a separate ticket. So it's not cheap, but it's not exactly. It's not this like unattainable
Mhm.
thing. I keep telling people like, if I can do it, if I can do it, then anyone can do it. Not anyone.
Yeah.
I
But
do
yeah,
have
if
a
you
luxury
want to.
of freedom, because my schedule is a little more loosey goosey, so I can kind of
You can
just
go.
make it happen. Yeah,
And if you guys are just joining us, Jimmy Kraft, he is a jazz musician in New York. Your dad, when he reached out, he's like, ask him about his jazz because he's playing in Brooklyn, 3,000 miles away. I think your dad misses you. Like, I was like, oh, that's
yeah,
definitely a parent saying something like that. But you used to play in San
yeah.
Francisco, which is
I
pretty
did. Yeah.
awesome.
Mhm.
Yeah. So why didn't you stay to the end? If you have a free schedule like that, why didn't you stay to the end?
Well, I have a I I took like 2 weeks off of my gigs and my teaching to do this West Coast trip. Um, I was at the point where I would be compromising too much if I didn't go back. Also, um, I had my scheduled bus ticket, which was luckily able to be honored, and so I saw the opportunity. Um, it was really hard for me to make that decision. I would have loved to stay to have a Burning Man without
The
burning the man.
Burning Man. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
that was the first time that's happened to me, and so that kind of like stung a little bit. But I I had to kind of make
The decision.
the smart decision to
Yeah.
go back and you know make some fucking money.
I have a
Exactly.
question for you because I've just been looking at pictures, wondering how it felt. Like it's kind of described as thick mud.
Look
Was
at
it
his shoes.
sludge? Like,
Look at this. That was his walking shoe, Kim. Like,
was it
bad.
hard to get out of? Like, once was it like your foot got stuck the minute you took a step, or what was it like? The
Yeah.
consistency?
So at first, before things had gotten kind of like tamped down in various places,
Mhm.
it was all just this like sea of sludge. And people say mud, but it was really like it's like clay.
Right.
So it's like this thick clay. It's like think it's not like it's not tar. Like I'm not getting
Mhm.
like I can't literally not move,
Mhm.
but it takes a lot of effort to get anywhere. It's super wet, super slippery, and in parts it was really deep. So people were getting creative with using their trash bags and their socks and their shoes, and like every time, or we kept seeing people pass our camp with different iterations of these engineered mud shoes with bags and cloths and and whatever. And a lot of people were like, "Oh, just going out in socks is the move." And then someone would come by and be like, "Oh, you got to go barefoot."
No.
And then someone would come back in this like massively engineered trash bag situation, which was kind of what I ended up doing, which
Yes.
actually really worked. So I will say that was what worked for me.
Did you come back with a cough or sick? Do you think you got sick in a storm or what
You
No,
sound
happened?
a
I
little
lose my
raspy
voice.
there.
I lose my voice out there every year, just
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
from I go out there and I sing too. I usually would go with an a cappella group
Oh,
uh,
fun.
out there. There's a camp called Acapella. This year that didn't happen, but I was doing a lot of singing on my own at various camps, karaoke. There's a jazz club camp right around the corner from us,
Oh,
and
that's
that was
cool.
actually something I wanted to get around to talking about because that was a beautiful
Please
moment.
do. Yeah, because I think these are the stories that people want to hear about because we know all about the mud.
Yeah. The mud is gonna be the mud, and the mud is gonna be the headline. Um, but I think to get back to like the way that we made shit work and the way that we still found beauty in this experience. Um, on my last night there, this was Sunday night. Someone tell me, is it Monday?
It's
Is it
Tuesday
Tuesday?
today.
Tuesday.
It's Tuesday. Fuck. Okay.
No, the
Um,
holidays screwed everybody up. Right.
right. Oh, holiday. Right. Well, holiday.
Mhm.
Sunday night. Uh, I was kind of over the doldrums and had started to kind of adjust to the new normal, and so I was able to like get myself out of camp and go explore a little bit, just in my neighborhood because again it was still pretty wet and I still didn't really want to go too far. Some people still like went all over hell um, in the mud, especially if they had left their bikes out in the deep playa
Oh
because a lot of
gosh.
people got their shit stranded out there. But Sunday night, someone came by my camp and was like, "Hey, there's ramen happening around the corner." So I walked over there, and they had set up this little cart, and they were giving out snacks and drinks and ramen, and it was right in front of the jazz club, right in front of the jazz. It's called the Jazz Cafe, Playa Jazz Cafe, and so one of the members of the Jazz Cafe came out because he saw me. And he was like, "Hey, come in and sing. We got a little early jam going."
That's
I was like,
cool.
"Okay, this is my chance." My whole camp had not had a chance to hear me sing yet. Went to go get them. By the time we got back, the band had stopped, but we had a whole bunch of people, and people started kind of gravitating in. And so the Jazz Cafe pulled their shit together, um, got a generator, um, pulled some players out from their camp. I think they had just been kind of going through a mood. So they really pushed through that, like physically and psychologically, to make this happen. And I started singing, and I don't think there was much other live music happening at the time. And they had completely reconfigured their inside because they had gotten rained out in their main area, so we were kind of like cloistered over by the bar,
Yeah.
and it became this like super small, very intimate setting that very quickly became a huge fucking party.
Oh, nice.
And so we had crammed like 30, 40 people into this small area, and we were just like letting the tunes roll. And I kept saying I'm not going to sing again because my voice is fucked. And I ended up singing. Me and another member of my camp, who's also an incredible singer, we ended up kind of trading off tunes for almost an hour. And in the wake of all of the bleakness, and it was still raining at that point. Like we were still, they had
Jeez.
like closed the tarps, and there was water coming in. My feet were soaked, but the joy that we were all sharing um, was, I was gonna say a highlight, but it was like the peak of my burn, honestly.
Yeah.
And everyone was just going off. The crowd was really into it. There was a couple that had tried to get married that weekend.
Oh,
Um,
really? That's
yeah,
awesome.
well, because a lot of people go out there, they do wedding ceremonies. Two people in our camp actually got engaged, so it's like a big place where
Aw.
love is happening and love is flowing. So let it roll. Um, they tried to get married like a couple days in a row, but the rain kept getting in the way of their plans. So they
Oh.
were there, and we got to sing some music specifically for them. They requested a tune, and yeah, it's just
That's
beautiful.
awesome. I mean, I feel
Yeah.
like, and I love that story that you said about singing. Because I can, and how they had to push through the darkness and the bleakness. Because I can imagine, even though I'm sure, especially if you go to Burning Man multiple times, not no burn is exactly the same. The
Yeah,
experiences, the people you meet, and everything like that. But there had to be. This is unlike anything else I've ever experienced, and
yeah,
kind of a disappointment that you have to push through, especially when. I mean, people get their hopes up and imagine things all the time, and then it's not even getting close to living up to what you thought it was going to be, but it could be something just as magical at moments.
Yeah, I always go in to Burning Man, or like honestly most things in my life. I try to go in relatively free of expectations and kind of just make the most of whatever's presented to me. And I think that was like a key factor in being able to enjoy myself out there. Not to say that I didn't have my dark moments, but it's that attachment to plans, that clinging to your expectations that could really ruin this experience for you if things don't go the way that you want it. And it was really, I don't know, you always know that you can't plan for everything, but to really be hit with this like massive unknown of like, is the rain gonna stop? If it doesn't stop, I know that we can't get out, and I know that no one can get to us barring a fucking airdrop, you know, or like military grade ATV.
Like, how bad is this gonna get?
Yeah, but then when you think about that, it's like 70 to 80,000 people. That's bigger than my hometown. Like thinking about the magnitude of whatever rescue effort might need to happen. It's all just unknowns, and so that's the scary part, because in that void, your imagination runs wild.
Absolutely. You're going back next year, I would assume, or
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't keep unless
check that forecast first. I don't know.
Yeah, but the forecast said dry skies the whole week.
Oh, did it? Yeah.
It was so odd. Because I remember I had talked to a burner who didn't get out there till Wednesday. And they're like, yeah, they told us to wait because the ply, but we were waiting for it to dry out. And yeah, he's like, the stars kind of peeked through. And I think everyone was really optimistic. It's amazing how wrong the weather forecast was.
Yeah.
But
even on the day of, and we kept looking in the distance and being like, oh, there's a little bit of sun there. That must be a good sign. Or like, ooh, there's rain on those mountains over there. We don't know which way the fucking wind is blowing.
You're all taking a guess. You're like putting your thumb up. You're like, nah, we'll be fine.
Yeah, we would get little updates, and we could find Wi-Fi here and there because there were camps that had like
Starlink or something.
Starlink, yeah.
Yeah.
And so we would like check the weather, but I just stopped.
Yeah. It is what it is. You're there. So whatever happens, right?
Exactly.
So
yeah.
Well, Jimmy, I thank you so much for coming on with us.
Yeah.
When I was asking for people, they're like, there's tons of videos. I'm like, no, I want to talk to somebody. I need to talk to somebody to kind of get this perspective, because again, I've never been. If I had been, I think I'd probably have a totally different perspective, but I come as a total newbie and do not have that perspective at all. I'm glad you made it home safe.
Now that you've seen about as bad as it maybe could get, I mean, who fucking knows in which way, but you've seen the shit.
Yeah, literally.
Maybe I'll see you out there next year.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe. Let's put it out into the universe. Maybe.
We can leave it as a maybe.
There you go. Now,
I will not get my expectations up.
Where do people hear your music? I know you're in Brooklyn, but do you post it online or anything?
I do, yeah. I mostly kind of work off of my Instagram.
Okay, perfect.
I do have a website, jimmycraftmusic.com.
Perfect.
But the best place to see what I'm doing and where I'm doing it would be on my Instagram. It's at Jimmy Craft Music, and that is Craft with a K. You can see it on the screen.
There you go.
Jimmy Craft Music.
Awesome.
And if you're in Brooklyn, or if you're anywhere in the New York metropolitan area, come out to one of my shows. Come say.
That'd be awesome. Well, Jimmy Craft, I'm so glad you came on. Thank you so much. Keep in touch, and I'm glad you're home safe. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, and so am I.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. Have